This is Near Enough to Hell, a Ghost of El Paso story, part 10, brought to you a little later than usual because of an outage by Optimum. So we are having a bit of a late start, so it'll be a shorter session than usual. But
This session is
before
not sponsored by Optimum Internet Service Provider.
it is not,
Not sponsored by
not, it is
Optimum.
not, in fact,
Because
patently.
internet Wi-Fi access should be a legal right, not a privilege.
That's right. It's a conspiracy. Talk to Wes. So let's recap everything that's going on so far with our
Cities shouldn't
hunters.
privatize parking. I'm sorry.
No, they shouldn't. Go off. Uh, all right. So the status of our hunters. Let's take a look at everyone. Mother Ruth Calvo has 3 conditions, 2 of which she cannot currently remove. Being most beloved and pious, she is also shaken. Although when it comes to pious, 3 of her 7 boxes on but not forgotten have been filled. So a little under halfway, but we're getting there. Graves is also fully stacked with Death Touch, the Hanged Man Knows, and Prying. The Marshal Andrew Harrington has The People versus Jebediah Clarkson and All's Quiet in El Paso. And as a reminder, All's Quiet is a condition that can be cleared at any time, but doing so will signify the mounting distrust against the Marshal and the Vigilance Committee maybe once more. And then Arkansas McGee is intoxicated and sympathetic for the dead. So previously, we had a few things happen. We had an assemblage of El Paso where some matters were raised regarding the affairs of the Blackheart Vermilion case, and some investigations into the corset proceeded, with Mother Ruth going to the corset itself in the apartment above the cantina, or the dance hall, I should say. And did some light exorcism, whereupon it began to bleed and release a snake that was tangled into a hangman's noose. The Marshal, Andrew Harrington, spoke with the fascinating woman from abroad, Lady Antonia Eurydice Bathsheba Hargrave Steele, who gave a list of demands for working together, which I will remind everybody. Let me pull that up real quick. I have that. For the continued collaboration between her paranormal expertise and the local vigilance committee, she wants access to the silver mines in the area, a one-on-one interview with Graves, and access to use of the jail. So that's a whole thing that's going on. We also saw Mother Ruth opening the first El Paso Church of the Reformed, the townsfolk having finished construction of a new building that is now the center of her faith. And aside from that, Arkansas continued to doggedly search for a coward Jim McKinley and fell right into a trap and got out of there, but not after being thoroughly beaten and bruised. I believe that you didn't have the condition because you marked it, but like
No, I killed them all.
you killed them all. That's right. That's right. I remember that now. Very good. Before we dive in, though, does anybody have any mask prompts that they wish to resolve before we start? No.
You owe me a clue for the last ride of Blackheart Vermilion when I did my move. Fraternize with the fellows.
That is correct.
I just put a note there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think.
And you do have you. I thought I saw you had a mask highlighted, Mask of the Past.
Let's see.
If you want to narrate that now, you can. Otherwise, we can wait.
Oh, I don't think I've done that one.
You want to do it now?
No, let me think about that. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Absolutely. Then in that case, we had ended during the dawn phase, so everybody can mark new elective dawn questions or leave them the same. I don't believe there are any playbook moves that trigger during the dawn phase for our hunters. So then in that case, before we jump to the day, we need a scene with Graves, who was missing for the previous episode. Graves, if you recall, you had attempted to speak with the victims of the corset in the root cellar beneath the cantina, and instead had a conversation with the hanged man. Now, if folks will recall, that was the result of a miss on the investigation move. Interestingly enough, I never actually gave you a complication because I was holding off on one. Our complication is going to manifest now. But before we give it, I want you to tell me, Graves, because with everything else that had been going on the previous night, there was an assemblage. Arkansas got into a fight in the shanty town near the burn pile. While all of that was happening in the night, where was Graves that he was so removed from the affairs of the Vigilance Committee? Because he was not seen after leaving the root cellar.
I have been thinking on this. And I think I have been actually in the tunnels below El Paso, specifically the mirrors, and I actually may have even gone back as long as this the Daisy Man was not hanged summarily to finish the game.
Indeed.
I keep my word.
You do. To go into the tunnels and finish the game.
Yeah, I checked the tunnels out. I'm curious about the mirrors and the whole ghost thing. That doesn't seem like the right it defies the laws of nature, the laws of myself, and I don't think that's cool or good. And so if I could, my two things were to dismantle that, get rid of it if I could. I don't care if anyone else wants to use it. And then keep my word and go finish the game.
And go play it with what was his name?
Clarence O'Toole.
Clarence O'Toole, thank you.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's fun. I think that's really fun indeed. So we see Graves, you going through the tunnels, disassembling the nexus of mirrors that were found within. Just an extra layer of precaution you are taking. And afterwards, as the town is busy, you make your way to the jail, where Clarence O'Toole has been interred and is awaiting. I don't think he's going to be hanged in El Paso. I think he is being transferred federally, but the government agents who would be involved with that have not come around yet. So for the time being, he is at the county jail, or rather the El Paso jail. What game do you play with Clarence O'Toole?
I think it's a card game. I think it's like poker. I think I offer to play the game with that. Whatever game he's been playing with other people and winning, that's the game I offer to play with him. And I just bring whatever items it is that I've seen him use. If it's poker, cards, poker chips, if it's a set, if it's fucking backgammon, I have it on hand. And I just bring it to the jail cell. I also do not ask the marshal permission to do any of this. I just waltz in.
Oh, the marshal's not even there because at this evening,
Fabulous.
The marshal was running the assemblage.
Oh,
so you have the run of the
fabulous.
place. Deputy Wainwright is also at the assemblage, so the jail's just dark.
Delightful.
Now, I will allow you, even though this is technically a bit of interstitial tissue that we're going here, you still have the move Care for a Game. So I will allow you to gain the benefits of it, even though the Daisy Man is resolved. If you still wish to do anything from your Care for a Game move, we can do that now.
I think the only thing that I would like to know is when and how he's supposed to die.
I think I will defer that answer to you as your move allows. You can tell me to declare how and when Clarence O'Toole is destined to die.
I I think it's 2 weeks from now on the gallows, after he's been sent to a federal jail, tried summarily, and hung. I do not tell him this.
Of course not. But you play. Do you win or do you lose?
I think I lose.
Indeed.
It's a favor. It's a favor to him for delaying the game. Taking it easy on him.
I have a question for you, Graves. While you're here, it's just you and Clarence O'Toole inside the jail. But there's something. One might call it a sixth sense or a presence, a raising of the hairs on your neck, which is a certainly interesting sensation that you are experiencing for the first time. Goosebumps. Interesting.
Fuddling.
Graves, or should I say death, what makes you think the devil is close by?
Oh, shit. Okay. Wow. I think the game is almost ending with Clarence O'Toole, and my focus has been on him, only on him. This is how we do this. But for a second, I feel those goosebumps, the hair on the back of my neck, and it's so odd. It's so unusual. And then I look back and I look down the rows, and there is just this soft glow I catch a glimpse of just for a second. A whiff of sulfur. And it smells familiar.
And then somewhere out there in the dark, at the strike of midnight, a train whistle echoes out from the desert. That would be your final complication, a mastermind clue. You may add the train whistle at midnight to your list. And we go now to the day phase. I have a new threat to introduce because we have openings for one in between the last rite of Blackheart Vermilion, which I will remind everybody. The text, Daniel, says day phases. However, I believe it's night phases because you couldn't resolve it during a day phase. So after this upcoming night phase, that clock runs out and the last rite of Blackheart Vermilion will no longer be resolved. So that's on its final fucking ticker. But our new threat is the grieving town of Clear Springs. Years ago, the nearby Socorro mission transformed the natural wetlands around it into arable ground. Ambitious farmers followed the mission's lead, and the small town of Clear Springs sprung up shortly thereafter. Then disaster struck. A particularly rainy season caused persistent flooding, weakening the town's foundations. Violent storms did the rest, washing away the town of Clear Springs and collapsing the Socorro mission. The few people who survived abandoned the area. Recently, monks led by Friar Hugo Navarro were sent to reclaim the ruins of the mission. Friar Hugo is determined to rebuild the mission and has been diligently working to the end. Today, a strange letter arrived from Friar Navarro for Mother Ruth Calvo. Mother Ruth. The letter describes a string of disturbing occurrences. It started when the monks rescued someone who was floating face down in the river. This person coughed up water and screamed your name before fleeing from them. Days later, the monks saw dead loved ones and acquaintances swimming in the water. The dead people beckoned the monks to join them. The monks, to a man, had the impression that the dead people meant to drown them. Days after that, buildings manifested all around, even on the water. The monks, now clearly terrified, hid in the mission. The spectral town eventually disappeared, except for the Clear Springs shop. The dead people returned, tending fields that had not yet been planted. The monks fear they will be sacrificed to the river if they stay much longer. The person who screamed your name returned to the area as well. What dead... Hold on. The person who screamed your name returned to the area as well. What dead relation or lover do you fear the wounded knight has brought back to haunt you?
She's terrified that Tomas will come back. Her husband, that you've seen in some of the masks of the past, the blonde-haired man that's like helped out with her when she was abroad and everything. She's afraid that that's who will appear. Tomas Calvo.
Marshal Harrington. How do you know the spectral town of Clear Springs is grieving?
One of the patterns that they are held when the spectral town appears is a funeral procession. It's not for the same person every night. It's for different people.
Very good. Then the day phase begins. Let's take a recap of the current state of our threat. So with the last right of Blackheart Vermilion, I do owe you a clue, Arkansas, which I'm about to give you. And getting that will allow you to take another stab at this question unless you want to gather more. We have 4 clues in the corset. Those questions are complexity 6 and 8 respectively. So you are able to answer either of them now, just with a penalty to the roll. And yeah, looking pretty good. Before I ask you all what you would like to do, I'm going to give the clue to Arkansas. And this is from Fraternize with the Fellas from the previous night. Basically with your would-be assailants. Gotcha.
It was from the other people of the shantytown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right. The clue I owe you. Is what you find immediately the next morning. It's not what you get from the because the people of the shantytown led you into a trap. It's not a clue you got from them that evening from speaking with them. It's what you get for surviving the attack. Because when you wake up this morning in your room at the back of the brothel, there is a note that has been stuck to your door with a shiny little nail bent a little out of shape that just says, "You're a worthless, no good, yellow-bellied fake. Several words have been misspelled." With that said, I would love to hear what everybody intends to do today. Let's start with Marshal Harrington. What are you interested in doing?
I would like to do a vulnerable move with Graves. Because I know how full of conditions Graves is.
Very fair, very fair. Good to know. Mother Ruth, what do you want to do today?
I've been called by the Lord and also by the friars, so I shall go. I was hoping Mr. Graves would go with me, but if not, if he wants to partake in some hanky-panky with the marshal, then that's fine by me.
Well, if Graves wants to go to the grieving town, they can certainly go with you afterwards. It's up to Graves.
You just seem like a specialist, but yes, I would send a letter to Mr. Graves. Hope, Lord bless it, may reach him in a place where is appropriate for a courier to go, but we shall see. I will be waiting outside of the church, First El Paso Church of the Reformed, and you shall, I shall be there with a cart and a buggy and my things, and you shall bring yours on. It is leaving. At the time it is leaving, and if you make it, you make it, and if you don't, well, the Lord takes note of those that leave those in need wanting.
Indeed. As a note, by the way, because I forgot to mention, the first question for the grieving town is the town in denial of its loss, or is it bargaining with the river, offering up new lives to it in order to be restored to life itself? Answering that question will unlock the next appropriate one and an aspect of the Janus mask. So we have that set up. Arkansas wants to do a scene. No, it's not Arkansas. The Marshal wants to do a scene. What does Arkansas want to get up to this morning?
Let's see. So how many? That gives us 9. All right. It gives us 9 for 8. I think we're pretty good. I think I know where that coward Jim McKinley is.
Now, Mr.
So I
McGee, are
think-
you sure?
Yeah, I got it this time. It's called triangulation.
Are you positive? Because the last time ended with you looking like a piece of butchery.
You're talking about them. Those fellows got butchered. I think he's gonna go to the Red Rock Cantina.
Oh, good.
Undercover.
While away
Not-
some time, work on the other case, but you're percolating, you're cooking, you're almost there. That coward Jim McKinley don't have much longer left to live on this earth.
I mean, if I bump into him there,
Win some, lose some. Exactly. Very good. You're going to go to the Red Rock Cantina. Fantastic. Before we do anything, though, with Mother Ruth, well, before we do anything with the other scenes, Mother Ruth, you said that you were sending out front the newly established, the First El Paso Church of the Reformed. I know you did the scene last time, but just for all of our sake, especially B, would you mind re-describing what this establishment looks like in comparison to its environs?
It is a place that is much it's functional over fashionable. It looks much like a schoolhouse, but instead it has that schoolhouse kind of A-frame kind of form. But it's got the cross on top of it. It's got the Dutch Reformed Church's cross on top of it in particular. And it has a certain charm to it. It has not been painted yet, because it's just been newly erected. So it looks like fresh, like lumber. That's all. It's got that fresh lumber kind of feel to it and everything. What used to be a tent, Mother Ruth wanted to call it His Wrathful Embrace Church of the Reformed, but others convinced her that that's not as welcoming as, because that's what the tent was called. But she abided and said, we do need people here in the church. And I think you can see, like, inside, like, it's got that fresh lumber on the inside as well, but it's very quaint. It's got a raised platform, just enough for, like, presentations or sermons. No pulpit, because you don't need a pulpit. There's no fineries, there's no fluff. It is all, like, wooden pews. There's Bibles and hymnals on every pew and things like that. And the hymnals are for those that aren't familiar, because honestly, if you come to church as much as you're supposed to, you should know all the hymns by now. It's the Psalms, please. Yeah, there's no, like, finery, there's no stained glass, it's just a very nice, quaint church. And you can see there's a lot of, like, gentlemen and women walking around. The gentlemen are all wearing different clothes, but they're all wearing suspenders. And all of them have, like, they're all speaking Dutch to one another. And the women are all wearing gowns with aprons and bonnets. But they are able to choose their own style. This is not like Mennonites or Amish or anything like that, where it's like, Jedediah's got the black trousers with the black suspenders and the blue shirt, and Menonias has the green shirt with the brown trousers. They're allowed to wear their own clothes, but there is a bit of a uniform. But they are all Dutch, and they're all speaking Dutch to one another. And some of them can speak English. Actually, most of them can speak English, but most of them just choose not to, unless they're friendly with you. But yeah, she's just standing outside, and she's like, I can't decide what color to paint it. Should it even be a painting? Should it just be the Lord's natural lumber, soaking up all of his light and love like that? No paint upon it.
Here's some, footsteps crunching in the earth, walking up to you as you're regarding your newly constructed church. And this little, a small gentleman with very fox-like ginger hair, He is dressed in a gray suit, wearing a thin little tie, a little hand tucked in his pocket, and his eyes very shifty, just kind of like looking up at your church as well as you're reflecting on the paint or whether or not to paint it. And he just kind of gives this like little like click of the mouth, little like low whistle. He's got the Letterman gap tooth kind of going on a little bit. He's going, wow, really nice place indeed. What color are you gonna paint it?
I haven't decided. I think I might just keep it its natural number.
Ah, I see. Rather juts out in the landscape, but I suppose that's the intent with a church. You want people to know it's there, safe harbor and all that.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Someone said white, but I feel like that's too close to the Baptists. And
Indeed.
another said, make it a bit darker with different accents. And I said, well, the Catholics would certainly love that, but there's no Catholics to be found around here. You can go across the river to Juarez if you want that now.
I'm sure the rurales will have a lot of opinions on that.
I don't believe we've met before.
Ah, you are Ruth Calvo? My apologies. You are Mother Ruth Calvo?
Mother Ruth Calvo, but Ruth to my friends.
I won't take too much offense to you not remembering me, though we haven't exactly met face to face quite yet. He takes one of his hands out of his pocket and holds it in front of you and says, Bird, I'm the gentleman that you won the bid for the lot over, and nodding towards the church.
We'll look at the hand and then think there's a moment, and we'll extend a hand, not as we'll not as like a kiss my hand, but we'll do like a handshake.
And shakes your hand. He's go ahead.
Pleasure to meet you.
No hard feelings, of course. I am a businessman representing the interests of the Reynolds, and this whole one lot lost is certainly not going to put a real hindrance on the plans to bring the train to El Paso. Congratulations on the new church.
That's the couple with the model train, correct?
Model train. Yes, indeed. They have put up a model in our office that we maintain on the main street. I am the representative of their interests. I manage the railroad office.
So you're going to bring that railroad right to El Paso, and sooner or later we're all going to be having the good grace or that railroad to take us all the way out to California, or maybe even Washington, D.C. if we want to.
Well, I can certainly say that Miss Reynolds has big plans for El Paso. Big plans.
That's curious. She has big plans for a town that she barely takes part in. Why, she's only shown up to one town meeting before, and why, the most I hear from her is her little giggling that comes from her room at night when I'm walking from my rounds.
He doesn't belie any change of expression. He just smiles his wolfish gap-toothed grin at you, and he says, well, Miss Reynolds is a very busy woman. She does have a number of business contacts and manages a great deal of various appointments to ensure the proper funding and preparations are in place. I tend to do most of the El Paso facing managerial labor. She is quite an inspired woman. You know, if you wanted to see her more often, I'm sure you could leave a request for an appointment. I'd be happy to pass it along, Mother Calvo.
Of course. Anyone that wants to have a meeting with Mother Ruth Calvo and talk about business opportunities are more than welcome, but they do need to keep in mind I take my meetings inside the church. And so if they wish to meet with me, they can walk right in that building, we'll say a prayer, and then we'll talk about whatever they want to talk about.
I'll be sure to pass it along to the Reynolds, Mother Calvo. Congratulations again on the building. It really is quite a pretty thing.
Thank you. And must I say, Mr. Bird, I'm quite pleased to see that there's a man in business that's willing to take instruction from a woman. Most men would see that as belittling. But you seem to be quite pleasant with it at all.
Indeed, Mother Calvo, for it is not the gender of the one, it is not one's gender that provides them with the ability to lead and form a keen tactical plan for what's best for El Paso. I'm sure you and Miss Reynolds would have much to talk about on that front, but I have appointments to keep. Pleasure speaking with you. Have a lovely day.
May the day bless you, Mr. Bird.
He puts his hands back in his pockets in a posture that unconsciously raises his shoulder blades a little bit and gives him some of that fox-like stalking away as he saunters down the street. Meanwhile, back at, well, actually, I was going to defer to Andrew and Graves. Y'all want to do a vulnerable scene. Where are we doing this scene, and whose vice are we indulging?
It depends on where the good marshal approaches me, because I do intend to go with Mother Ruth Calvo. This is a massive issue I'm not cool with, the new ghost town, but I have time to talk to the marshal. Just depends on where he... So that's up to him.
Yeah, I think it's just like I catch you out on the street. Mr. Graves, it's been a little bit since I've seen you. You weren't at the fuck. This is me as player forgetting the name.
The assemblage? Or
The
assembly?
assemblage. Yeah, the assemblage. You were at the assemblage last night.
I had other matters to attend to. I hope it went well.
It went fairly okay. Some people consider it's a little bit strange that Clarkson is such in good graces with us now. So, but I think he'll pass over relatively quickly, as he is now living in the town. But I just find it very interesting that you weren't there. It's sort of you have. It's a little bit rude of me to like suggest this, but were you perhaps playing one of your games with people, sort of a gambling sort of a thing? I know you've taken up, what was it recently? Chess?
I was guilty as charged, but it was something I'd vowed to do, and I keep my word. Seems you've had this whole assemblage handled, and frankly, no one wants to hear my opinions on Dr. Clarkson. So, no offense, but I'm sure you had it handled. It's not rude of you to ask. And I had my things handled.
Yes, I just I know that things have been a little bit tense with you, and I really don't mean to pry into your business, but is everything all right? Nothing strange afoot with you?
I think you actually see, maybe for the first time since he was shot, you see Graves actually laugh at this. Marshal, this is the Wounded Knight. Everything is strange.
Well, there's degrees of strangeness. It's like with you in particular, because, well, it just seems as though you are isolating yourself a little bit, that's all.
Oh, no, I simply had things to take care of. If you do have a question for me, though, Andrew, I do ask that you just say it.
And I think Andrew pulls out the Book of the Dead at this point, because I think at this point I may have triggered the vulnerable move by talking about chess and whatnot. And I do have a question, and it seems that you're inviting me to ask it.
Oh shit! All right, go ahead.
I know that like you did hand this off to Mother Ruth, and it was a place in like good faith and whatnot. However, I just was very curious about it because we've never seen a book quite like this before. And frankly, it has information that shouldn't be in there.
Why shouldn't it be in there?
Because no reasonable living person in a Paso should know this, except for, well, me personally. So, why did you have this book?
It's my job to have it.
I think at that, Harrington drops the book.
And Graves slowly, very casually, crouches down and grabs it and puts it back in his pocket. I hope that answers your question, Marshal.
It does. And I think at that, the Marshal just turns on the heel, contemplating what has just been told.
What
Just know what
conditions
that
do we
means.
think we have cleared?
I honestly think Andrew picked up a condition from this.
It feels like
Yeah.
he did.
What condition do you take, Andrew?
Maybe replace one. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to replace the Peepa versus Jeb Clarkson with potentially
In Death's Shadow?
in Death's Shadow.
That's wicked. Oh my god.
Or something wicked this way comes. I don't know. Take your fucking pick, man.
Oh fuck, that's good. Oh, those are so good.
Listen, I understand that I am on top of my condition game.
You are. Fuck.
I'll let you ruminate on that. What condition does Graves clear?
I'm gonna I think I'm gonna clear prying because I'm gonna be leaving El Paso for like at least like 24 hours or whatever. So this I feel like because I don't feel this cleared. The hangman knows. I don't feel it deserves to be cleared right now. Doesn't feel right.
Very good. I think on that note, let's take a 5-minute break. We're going to pick up at the Red Rock Cantina, where Arkansas is visiting relatively earlier in the afternoon. It's not quite open, but they do allow, you know, they have been known to allow the occasional customer, especially as a member of the Vigilance Committee who is on duty. Let's talk about the dance hall, though. As we've may have mentioned before, but now explore in full. The dance hall is filled with various small tables and chairs, and all but the first row of which are cleared on busy standing room only type nights. But for now, they're set up and out there. The main stage to one end has a red velvet curtain, currently closed. And then the fully stocked bar near the rear of the dance hall, usually open on busy nights. Diamond Dave works the bar. There's the stairs up to the back. And I believe we had already done the paint the scene for this place about how all eyes are drawn to the main stage, that's fine. But just to reset that scene with the visual, we see Arkansas. You are here. Am I correct in assuming you're at the bar?
Yeah, I'm going to the actual cantina part.
Oh, not the dance. Sorry, my bad. I said the dance hall. I meant to say the cantina. Oh my god. Let's reverse that one. Let's talk about the cantina. We see empty dance hall. Cut to the cantina. In the cantina across the street, barrels are repurposed as furniture, table bases, side tables, low stools. The wall behind the bar is decorated with empty green and brown bottles, and a little space around the piano is cleared for dancing. So let's paint the scene about the cantina. What do you see that shows the dancers are treated like celebrities here?
They have custom posters for some of the dancers, and they've been painted. I know. Got your ass, Wes. They're like they are painted beautifully, and their cheeks are perfectly rouged, and their names are in these like fancy fonts. It's just absolutely decadent.
Hanging over the bar are these multicolored, different colors. I mean, garter belts, and they each have a plaque of the dancers' names up there with a different color garter belt. These satin garter belts hanging above the bar like a rainbow.
In addition to the bar, there are some tables. Specifically, there is like a VIP section for the dancers where they can come in, have a drink, and just sit down and relax without getting disturbed. Like there's people on staff to make sure they won't get disturbed.
There are a pair of dance hall girls. They look to be sisters. They look related. Presently seated, enjoying a brief break off to the side. Diamond Dave is behind the bar, and the only other man in here is a regular gentleman. You might even recognize him. He's a gentleman named John Fales. And he's a day laborer. He's one of the fellas you might fraternize with. So you show up at the cantina. What do you do?
I think I'll go to Big John Fales.
Big John Fales.
Yeah.
He
I
is
was
a
typing
tall
something,
and
yeah.
muscular. What was it? What were you typing?
I was typing something in the chat about Big John Fales.
Okay. Big John Fales is a tall and muscular gentleman. Round head and bristly 5 o'clock shadow. You've probably seen him around. He's a day laborer, brawn for hire, and is a regular at the Red Rock. He's at the counter just nursing a drink that Diamond Dave has poured for him. It's earlier in the day, so it's not really any of the strong stuff. But Diamond Dave does nod subtly at you. You pull up next to Big John, and he glances over at you and just grunts, takes a sip of his drink, looking dead forward, just says, Arkansas.
Hey, Big John. Diamond Dave, I would like to have 3 or whatever he's having on account of my headache.
Diamond Dave just like nods and begins to pour in the background.
Why?
Go ahead.
I was wondering, Big John. I know they got the Daisy Man. Caught him red-handed using witchcraft and sorcery and whatnot. But I was wondering why you're hanging out here at the Red Rock Cantina with its history.
What history? And immediately Diamond Dave, like, his head's he's back to you pouring drinks, and Diamond Dave's head begins to like slowly turn in your direction with complete rigidity in his body language. And
a lot of folks don't know it's a common tale out on the trails when people talk about El Paso and the Wounded Knight. But Big John, you got to know why they call this the Red Rock Cantina. It's not on account of the color of the rock. It's on account of this infamous bandito named Victor Vasquez. He used to operate on both sides of the Rio Grande until he died, but then he kept operating, and he would kill people. Right here, it was a rock before it was a cantina, and he used to kill people here. He used to sacrifice them to dark gods. You ever heard that, Big John?
Now, I know you're using your tall tales move here to get a clue, but I am going to make this the day move in general for reasons that, as the writer of this game, you might know. But as you're telling this story with Diamond Dave hearing, kind of in a that this could negatively affect business with this story you're sharing. What are you afraid of happening here, I guess?
I guess I'm afraid that I'm about to start a ruckus.
Oh, indeed. All right. You can go ahead and roll plus presence. I think that because well, you're hungover, so that's not going to give you disadvantage. Yeah, if you were intoxicated, I'd give you disadvantage, but no, hungover, you're not. So just roll flat.
Presence, and so it's going to be +2. And I have a 7 + 2 is a 9.
Okay. 9. Here's how this approach of yours is going to make you vulnerable. And if you want to persist, you can. I know you will. Here's the thing. This story you're telling is largely harmless, but it is planting that seed in Diamond Dave's mind, and then by extension Lola's, that your approach might cause problems and negatively affect business. And especially if any of your stories have any actual credibility to them, they're going to have their eye on you.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, you can take marked by Red Rock Cantina, or just marked by Red Rock, to
That's even
reflect.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to reflect all of them. Yeah, very good. Big John says, I haven't heard that one. He just takes another sip of his drink, sits it down on the counter, and looks at you. Nice story, Arkansas. What does that have to do with the price of butter?
I was just wondering why someone that is probably as cowardly as you is hanging out in what could possibly be a haunted bar.
He creaks on his stool as he turns half of his body towards you, and he says, "The fuck you just say to me, Arkansas?"
Yeah, I think he takes out the note, and I say, "Did you put this on my door?" The note about, I'm gonna get you and all that.
I didn't put fucking shit on your door, Arkansas, because I can't stand the smell within a half mile of your skanky little behind.
It ain't me, it's the brothel. To be
I'm sure
perfectly honest.
I'm sure those good whores are more than bathed enough. It's your ass that I be whiffing every time I get nearby. You want to try your words again, or you gonna make me get up from my stool and teach you a lesson?
He's taking a drink from, if he ever got a drink, he's taking a drink from one of those he's taking a drink, and then he's basically gonna smash Big John Fells with whatever the cup's made out of. He's smashing Big John Fells with.
Okay. Abso-fucking-lutely. Let's do this. I think this would be the day move if you hadn't rubbed the Red Rock owners the wrong way slightly. So I am going to upgrade this to the night move, as you're going to start swinging at Diamond Dave. What are you afraid of happening?
No, not Diamond Dave.
Not
Big
Diamond.
John.
Sorry, no, Big John. I'm going to say Big John. I know. Yeah, no. You're going to swing at Big John. What are you afraid of happening here?
I'm afraid that he shoots me while I'm like trying to hit him. I brought a mug to a gunfight.
Indeed. It is worse than that. I think. Let's see. Yeah, I just fully think that your actions are going to be the absolute nail in the coffin, and now the Diamond Dave and Lola are fully like, oh, actually, we cannot trust the Vigilance Committee if they're letting this reckless. They will be fully barring you off to the investigation and trying to handle it all in house. So if you still wish to persist with this course of action, you may roll with vitality, and I'm going to give you disadvantage.
And because it is a unprompted sudden act of violence, I do so with an advantage, so it cancels it out.
Yes, indeed.
I think, yeah. And my vitality is 1. 6, 7, 8.
8. We'll come back to that scene. Much later, we see Graves and Mother Ruth Calvo on the road to Clear Springs. Clear Springs is 15 miles outside of El Paso, so it's a bit of a trek for you. Is this a are you going by carriage? Are you on horseback? Walking for some fucking reason? What are we doing here?
Taking a cart. There's a cart and buggy with a horse that belongs to the church, and Mother Calvo has taken it off the hands of those that are working. Since the church has been constructed, giving them a little bit of a rest to relax and things of that nature. And has made Mr. Graves drive the cart as well. Like actively got in the shotgun position and just sat and was waiting for Mr. Graves, checking a pocket watch. And
Do either of you wish to have a vulnerable scene en route to Clear Springs, or not triggering one?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we can only get that with chess because you are pious, because you do not have access to your vice. So if you want to do a vulnerable scene en route to Clear Springs, go ahead and frame up the scene. You're, on this cart traveling through the desert. And
for my notes, does mental chess count?
I mean, I will take any generous interpretation of chess.
I know you like chess, so let me pull up a chessboard here real quick. Just so I can see.
Oh, okay.
Just so I know I can and everything like that. Yeah, Mother Calvo goes, it's just like riding along just throughout the day and everything. Pawn D3, or pawn D2 to 4, D4.
Graves doesn't stop the cart, but he does look over at you. And just for a second, pardon me?
I believe that is an opening move. It's a pawn D, D2 to D3, or D4, pardon me.
Fascinating. I didn't know you enjoyed games.
What makes you think that, Mr. Graves?
You seem focused on other things.
You think that just because I am a holy woman, I don't enjoy the many pleasures of life?
I know you enjoy the pleasures of life, Mother Ruth.
Indeed, I love the sunshine and the fresh air and the water that I get to drink from a clear spring when I'm taking my daily walks, and I also enjoy games. Not of games of chance, but games of skill. Whatever all that poker playing that all you boys do inside the gambling halls. It's sheer luck, and it's devilry work. But games like chess, backgammon, mancala, they take skill. So I say, pawn D2 to D4.
Knight into F6.
How are you enjoying life as it goes, Mr. Graves?
I find it very fascinating, the longer it goes on. I can understand the appeal of it now, why people want to continue it. What about you, Mother Ruth? I see you've erected a new church. Very lovely.
It is one of the works that I was called to do for the Lord, and thus I do it so, and I do it gladly. Like the psalm says, this is the day that the Lord has made, rejoice and be glad in it.
Mother Ruth.
Indeed.
You have a whole coterie of people with you. Did they come with you? I don't believe I know them well. Your church, how long have you known them?
Pawn E2 to E4. Some my whole life, some I just met yesterday.
Oh,
That's the benefit of having a community like a church established in a building. People wander in and out for all different sorts of means and needs. It comes to them when they need it. And then there are some, like myself, that understand that it is a lifetime contribution. But there are others that get to skirt on by with every so often.
impressive. Very impressive. Pawn to. Let's see. C5. You know, if you wanted to play me, Mother Ruth, we could have stayed home.
Well, there's work to be done. But it'll be hard work and it'll test us. And at the end of the day, we shall be able to enjoy it. Enjoy life, for it is for the living. Let it be known that the Lord does say, Ecclesiastes, go eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart. And what provides a joyful heart? Why, it's a hard day's labor and work. So, why not enjoy it? That's going to be a pawn B2 to B3 to B3.
You know, I'm not sure this is about enjoyment. This is about riding nature. This isn't about. The Wounded Knight is not for enjoyment, Mother Ruth. As delicious as the food is, as intoxicating the wine, that's not why I'm here. It's not why you're here. It's not why any of us are.
Then why do you think that we're here, Mr. Graves?
I wish I knew.
And that's what you're looking for. Spending all evenings of the nights sitting up with people playing cards and watching them from their windows and getting little tugs in closets. You're trying to find out the meaning of life and existence.
Do you have a better way?
Stop the cart.
And he stops it.
Do you see that tree right there in the distance?
Yes.
What do you see?
Something that is alive despite everything.
Despite everything, despite all the hardships and the arid climate, that tree is surviving. What you see is a tree. Do you know what I see?
What do you
Yeah.
see?
That tree was once a seed that grew into a sapling, that grew into a tree, and at one point there were bugs and animals that have taken home inside of it, and they use it for shelter, they use it for sustenance. And there are also travelers like us along the road that would take that tree and sit underneath it and have ourselves a nice rest while the sun's beating hot in the middle of the day. That tree has purpose, because the purpose was thrust upon it. It had no say in the matter. It landed there. It was placed there by the Lord, and it immediately went to your purpose. You. El Paso is that tree. El Paso was always going to be there, whether you wanted it to, or whether I wanted it to, or not. The city is going to spring out, and it will either grow or it will fester and die away, like all things in life. Trees last a long time, Mr. Graves. They live a long time, and you know why trees live a long time, Mr. Graves? Because of all the bugs and the birds that live in it and make its home its shelter, and for all the people that rest underneath it and have their picnics, and then they have their food crumbs and they leave it off to the side and their scraps off to the side, and then all those bugs and birds eat, and then they shit, and then the soil underneath it grows nice and nutritious, and then it rains and it gets its sustenance. because they contribute to it. That is our purpose on this world. We are all just ants or birds living in a tree, and we have to make sure that it thrives and survives, or we all end up dead. And it is my place here to make sure to be a guiding light. Not to be the path, but to guide the path, a signpost. That is why I sit upon the committee. That is why I stay in El Paso, because it is my tree. I did not pick that tree. I was placed in that tree by the Lord God above, and I will live in that tree, and I will make sure that that tree does not fall aside and looks over to a dead tree that's just rotted over and everything like that.
It's very noble of you, Mother Ruth. But no matter what you do, everything ends up like that. And he starts the card again.
Wonderful. Is there a question in there, or are we doing a clue?
We're doing a clue.
Fantastic. I'll let you think
Clue
about that for a moment.
time.
Marshal Harrington, where do we find you?
Oh, back at the jail cell,
Talking to Del Sol?
talking to Del Sol. It's
Good to
it's like
know.
that movie. It gets me a lot of clues or something.
It is very interesting how it does that. Yes. Deputy Wainwright is at the station with you, or is at the
Mhm.
jail cell. He's at his little side corner, going over things. And Cage like winces and like touches at his where his bullet wound is under his clothes. Continues, flipping through the papers, the ledgers, and doing some of the bookkeeping work for you. Wincing again, touching at the wound.
Deputy Wainwright, you could have taken more time off.
Oh, well, I know, Marshal, but, well, I figure that you're short-handed, and I'd want to make sure that there was somebody around here who could help out. I mean, really, I'm in a fair, chipper spirit, all things considered.
Yes, at the very least, stop poking at it. That I don't think that's helping any.
Doc Albers told me, he kind of like runs off, but like winces and he goes, all right, I'll stop trying to aggravate it. I didn't mean to give you the impression I'm incapable of doing my duties, sir.
Deputy Wainwright, it's more important that you are all right. Paperwork can always be done another day.
I suppose. Yes, sir. I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe I could. Well, I know Dave is out, doing the rounds.
Mhm.
Dave Wainwright is his brother, your other deputy. And it's just like I could go join him.
Mhm. Yes.
All right.
That'll be nice.
If you think you can get on just fine, Marshal, I'll
Mhm.
see myself out. He stands up and gets out. And in his passing, we see Del Sol in the cell. You haven't marked any new masks since last time, have you?
No, I have not.
Gotcha. So he just sits there, still dressed as the old Marshal, as we established,
Oh,
fiddling with a coin in his hand, just smiling to himself slightly. What do you do?
Hello, Del Sol.
He's a most interesting youth, I'd say. He's very friendly, but he doesn't exactly rub his kindling together, if you catch my meaning, Marshal.
I get that, but he is honest, and that goes a long way in certain things.
Honesty is certainly a commodity that is useful in your line of work. I can imagine it is hard to come by in these troubling times.
Mhm.
It's funny how honest hearts can be found in the most secreted places. You'd think such brazen truth would be worn openly upon the breast like a pin, or should I say a marshal's badge. But I do suppose the intent of the human heart is sealed and locked away unless given to the inclination of kindness. You catch me musing, Marshal. I apologize sincerely. He like stands up and like wobbles a little bit and like puts his arms out to get his bearing and just kind of like a long exhale in his eye. It's kind of unfocused for a moment before he like swaggers over to the bars with a little drunk someone, like leans against them and smiles at you and says, "How may I be of assistance to you today, Marshal?"
Yes. Honestly, I just have some more questions because, well, I figured since that you are out drinking as much as you do, you probably have met Arkansas a time or two.
Do you smell liquor upon my breath, Marshal? I am as sober as a newborn babe. I'm just simply sleeping off the worst of it. I know Arkansas McGee. I suppose everybody in this town is aware of that fella, given one, his predisposal to telling stories about his ride with his former famous, I suppose you could call her paramour. I'm not one to speculate. Maybe they were just friends. Blackheart Vermilion, what a gun-tooting shooter she was. And then the other hand is because he does make his presence quite known with his trigger finger, as I'm sure you have seen.
Yes.
I am familiar with him, as familiar as I am with all the folks at El Paso that I happen to cross paths with. You tell me, Marshal, what is it you are looking to hear?
Well, he's been hunting down this Jim McKinley fellow, and frankly, he's gotten himself up into a trap or two as of late, and it seems that if he doesn't find this fellow, he may never do.
You know, there was a time when folk looking to make themselves to be something would engage in the barbaric ritual of seeking out a real bounty of a target. Not a bounty in your modern terms. I mean truly a hoard of repute or esteem. To kill them in battle would be a surefire way to place them upon the mount, take their place. Tradition we've seen echoed over many periods of history. We've seen it before, even in this West. We've seen it in a simpler time, before the modern age encroaches further. There was a period where the fastest finger in the West would challenge the current holder to be the best shot. But such practices are falling out of favor, though they never seem to remain that way. This coward Jim McKinley sounds just like that kind of man who sought fame, the kind who brought down the famous Blackheart Vermilion, but failed to really get the results he wanted. Funny, sometimes you can swagger so cocksure yourself into a situation and walk out dickless.
I suppose that's one way to describe that.
Go ahead and roll plus sensitivity, Marshall.
Oh my god. That's a 13.
Incredible. I'll owe you 2 clues. We cut back to Arkansas. Here's your complication. I'm going to narrate the whole scene in full, and it will include the complication. You might notice a theme today. You swing the mug at Big John's face, and it cracks against his jaw. His head like whips to the side as he falls out of his stool, scrabbling to the ground, spits out a tooth even as his hand goes up to his mouth, groaning in pain for a moment. And before you really get the chance to further handle the situation, he is quickly stumbling back to his feet, grabbing at your lapels, reaching for your neck and shaking you, thrusting you back up against the bar, sneering at you with bloody open lips as he fumbles for a bottle that's nearby. But before he gets the chance to escalate the fight further, a figure who is also drinking at the cantina, some people, I should say, they get up. At one of the back corner tables was a group of desperado-looking sorts. You might accurately surmise them to be outlaws having a drink in town, but the most notable among them is a woman who is dressed in black riding pants and a red and black striped blouse. She has long dark hair that is pulled back tightly, and she has black gloves on. She kind of was drinking at one of these tables, boots kicked up, with her fellow desperados. But at this clamor, she watches for a moment, and then she gets up, and then the others at her table get up. The others, they go to Big John and just kind of like grab him. They go to pull you apart as Diamond Dave is also hooting and hollering about taking this barbaric behavior outside if you really must. But these gentlemen wrestle Big John back as he strains and sneers at you, yelling, "I ain't no fucking coward, McGee." Taking them time for him to calm down. You also spitting back in his face. And this woman in the black riding boots or riding pants, just utterly, just calm, just kind of swaggers up to you and doesn't restrain you, just fully bam, delivers a quick punch to your face that's enough to send your head spinning, to like startle you and just knock you out of the situation immediately as you kind of go lean against the bar for support. And as you're kind of just head spinning, this woman, she kind of grabs you, not super aggressively, just grabs you firmly by the front of your shirt, looks at you, and she says, "I don't much prefer my drinking time being interrupted. Can you please act a civilized man? There's enough violence in the world as it is. No need to bring more here." She like pushes you firmly, get back against the bar, and looks at you, just very dead set and serious of like, "Don't fuck with me." And I'll let you know, this is technically a mastermind clue.
Except I'm spinning a mask.
All right, then it is not a mastermind clue.
And I'm going to narrate my other mask.
Indeed. We see that there is a reality in which Felina, an outlaw, makes her appearance known in this situation, but instead something else entirely happens. You may narrate.
It's about 5 or 6 years ago. It's Kansas City. We see Arkansas McGee looks pretty much the same. He's at a bar. The bartender is trying to explain something to him, and he's not really listening because he's intoxicated. He's drunk. But the bartender's name was Reed, and Reed is saying, I'm not kidding, Arkansas. I think this kid's trouble." And he's like, wait, which kid? This is a Jim McKinley kid. And Arkansas's like, "No, he's just some dumb kid. Now stop bringing him up. I don't care." And Reed is like, he just keeps saying that he's gonna take out Blackheart Vermilion. And I'm just warning you, you got to say something to her. "No, look, she can handle a kid like that. She's the fastest gun in the West. Come on now, Reed, pour me another and quit trying to demean the woman. She's fast. She's accurate. And she don't need me warning her about these kids coming wanting to prove who they are. Now just stop it." And while he's in mid-sentence, we hear a very loud gunshot nearby. And we go to the camera goes, everybody's coming out, and we see Blackheart Vermilion on the boardwalk in a pool of blood. And across the street, we see a kid with a rifle, and he's turning to run. And we see Arkansas. Does he go to Blackheart Vermilion? Does he go after this kid? Near the kid is a very familiar Big John Fells. "Get him! Get that kid! Get that kid, Big John!" And then we see Blackheart, we see Arkansas run to Blackheart, and we see Big John just let the kid go. That is narrate a flashback to when Blackheart Vermillion was murdered by the coward Jim McKinley, despite you trying to save him.
Then in that case, and you were marking another mask too, yeah?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Are you gonna do that one too, or are you holding on to that one?
Yeah, I think we can do that one.
Immediately segue into it.
So now it's a few years later. Arkansas's he's got a campfire set up, and he's alone. He's got a horse, and he's traveling somewheres, and he hears he's alone, and in the crackling of the fire, he hears somebody say, "That fella told you. That fella told you that he was going to kill her. Shut up." And the voice says, "Well, I'm not the one to place blame upon, somebody else. That's not my job. That's somebody else's job. But if I was, I'd be pointing my finger at you there, Arkansas McGee. Shut up. I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of truth to what you're saying, but just shut up. Quit saying it." And that is narrate a flashback to when you heard ghostly whispers alone in the wilderness.
And indeed, you have narrative control of this scene.
He's going through Big John's pockets, and he's dragging him out of and he tells Dom and Dave, "This is part of a investigation, or cowboy style." And just drags him out, and he's probably wanting to ask him some questions about the coward Jim McKinley.
Marshal Harrington with a 13. Now on the cellmate move, there's only a 10 plus result, but because you rolled a 13, I'm gonna do something special too as part of the scene. You're asking about Jim McKinley, this matter that's vexing Arkansas. And Del Sol, his usual friendly swagger. He says, "You smoke, Marshal?"
No, I really didn't get into the taste of it.
I'm not a fan of the tobacco myself, although, well, I do suppose tastes change over time. Perhaps there's a new role that would be well suited to my palate. I only ask because he like reaches into his coat and like pulls out like a box of cigars and just goes, "I came upon these. Can't rightly reckon where I got them from. I have no use. Little too rich for my blood, I suppose. Was hoping to pass them on to you. But if you don't partake, I'll see no reason why I can or why I should. But I insist you take them. I am, after all, currently bound to a prison of my own safety. It would probably be better if you gave these to someone who cared. I might just drop them or try to eat them the next time I wander these streets and partaking in my vice." Passes the cigars to the bar, and these are, I'll leave the details of like the box and the branding of that to any possible clue finding. But Del Sol does mention, "Oh, now I rightly recall, I found them. I technically stole them, Marshal. I do apologize, but from my understanding, they were already stolen goods. So I think I just came upon something already stolen. So I guess this is me just doing my part as a concerned citizen, giving you these fine cigars back." And those are the stolen cigars as a clue for last ride. Then he like leans, after he passes you the cigars, he leans forward and says, "You afraid of death, Marshal?"
A little bit. Seems as though death or something great like it haunts these streets.
Oh,
I'm not sure which.
there are certainly things haunting more than just these streets, Marshal. There's a lot about El Paso and indeed the surrounding area, indeed the country even, that is unique to other places. For example, he like leans forward against the bars slightly, and all is very quiet. You can only really focus on him and his voice as he says, "Did you know that here in your North America, if you are to die, at least it'll be comfortable? The transition, I mean." Does that bring you comfort to know that when you die, you will be at least somewhat taken care? Well, for as long as the journey to the other side persists.
I suppose it is a little bit comforting to know that, at least.
He's swaying slightly, and it takes you a moment to realize it's not because he's drunk. You start to feel it too, the soft rattling shake of motion underfoot. And you can't break eye contact from him as he speaks, but your vision peripherally goes kind of dark. You're so entranced and focused. And we see that your immediate surroundings darken, and when they begin to relight, you're not inside the jail. You're inside the car of a train, just rocking back and forth slightly. Outside, the windows show the blood-red lit desert of the Wounded Knight. Del Sol is not behind bars, but he still has his arms positioned as if he were caressing them. And you realize that you're moving without your legs carrying you forward. The two of you just drift forward through this ghostly vision of a train. As he's saying, "There are few modern developments that I am more fond of than the locomotive, Marshal. I haven't gotten to ride on one myself, but as I understand it, the ride is very comfortable. What came first, the chicken or the egg?" What came first, the train or the black train? Same question can be asked for a camera, though I will not go into particulars there. And as we slide over to a next car, this car actually has like several people in it. They all are just apathetically seated in various dress. Some are dressed very fancifully. Some are dressed as in like soldier fatigues. Some are dressed destitute and ragged. Some are just buck naked and sitting there. But all of them just apathetically staring forward. And Del Sol just continues talking and being like, "This place, it's North America. Your Wounded Knight, Marshal, it's no mere event where the thinning veil causes problems for the people of El Paso. There is a method to the madness, though I am not inclined at the moment to explain the full details of what brought us to this precipice. But there is a train, Marshal, a train that ferries the dead. Every 6 years, you'll book a ticket, I guarantee. And every 6 years, that train, on the final leg of its destination, swirls around El Paso like water down a drain. That's the Wounded Knight business, after all. It's the final station, passing through. This is the threshold for the lands of the dead. But there was a bit of a wrinkle, as I'm sure you no doubt are aware. Look me in my eyes, Marshal, and answer me truthfully. 6 years ago, when you first arrived around these parts and your former marshal died, that was the worst wounded knight there ever was in El Paso's history. Am I correct?
Yes.
Do you want to know what brought us to that point, Marshal?
Yes.
I won't show you the moment, but I will show you the prologue. And he just like turns and like gestures forward behind him to go through the next cart forward.
Andrew Harrington will proceed forward.
You stalk forward. And as you open this next car, similar, a passenger car full of these people. But once the door shuts and locks behind you, you hear Del Sol's voice, whispering in your ear, but you don't turn around. You just look forward and he says, "The year is around 1830, Marshal. We're 48 years in the past." And you see that on the other end of this car, you hear a door open and you can hear the loud rattling of the outside locomotion of this ghostly black train as it winds its way along the misty Rio Grande. And two figures leap into the carriage. You can actually have seen like two horses galloping at speed along the train outside the windows. And it seems that these two riders leap onto the train and open the doors and step in. Guns drawn, these two outlaws have the hats and bandanas on, and they rip the bandanas on, like look around, their guns pointing forward. They don't seem to notice you particularly, but you recognize without a doubt Isabella and Edward Reynolds, both just the same as you've seen them before, not any older, barely any younger. And you see them looking around confusedly at what they've discovered. And you watch as these two rob the dead, walking around, not even having to exercise any intimidation. The dead just apathetically hand over the jewelry, cash, and any valuables they had been buried with. Because indeed, Marshal, you are on the train of the dead. The Reynolds, probably by your estimation, made more money in a single night than any train robbery in history. And Del Sol says, "And this just wasn't a one-off occurrence, Marshal. This happens every 6 years. And every time, the Reynolds would come along until one of them met a fate that they could not escape unscathed." And then the train begins to dim, and you're back, just standing across from Del Sol in the jail cell. You see that he's actually changed his outfit now. He's no longer dressed as the old Marshal. He's dressed as Blackheart Vermillion. And he takes off the hat, kind of like, fans it against his face as if it was a real scorcher out, and just, wipes the sweat from his brow and says, "Golly me, sometimes it does remind me that I am no longer what I once used to be. Woo! It certainly is getting hot out there. Best to have protection, though it will not buy you every luxury." He takes off Blackheart Vermillion's hat and hands it to you through the bars, and holding it up, you can see that it has 2 bullet holes through the crown. That is your second clue you get. How do you want to close the scene with Del Sol?
So I know that the Reynolds have been buying property up as of late. Are they aiming to do something with the train? That train I saw, rather than a physical one.
Can you repeat that? Your mic's cutting you out.
Oh, right. I know the Reynolds have been buying property up as of late, but I'm not sure if it's for a physical train, but rather that train of the dead I saw.
Del Sol stretches lackadaisically and swaggers back over to the bench in the cell and sits down upon it with a luxurious yawn, rubs his eyes, and says, "That is a good question to ruminate upon, Marshal Harrington. A good question indeed. It's the marking of a man of great intellect who knows where and when to ask questions, for indeed, knowledge is a valuable commodity. Would you agree?"
It is.
There was a time when that was seen as an outrageous statement. Once there was a time, Marshal, knowledge was not to be given, only kept. Have a good day, Marshal. I'll be in here. I'll be out before long. Worry not. I'll clean up my act eventually. You see yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, before we end the session and go to Stars and Wishes, we're going to at least set up the dusk phase insofar as we are going to hear if there are any questions answered, because now we have a handful of clues on the last rite of Blackheart Vermilion. Do we wish to take a stab at another attempt at where's the coward Jim McKinley hiding? What do you think, Daniel?
With all these new ones, I think I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to think about it.
All right, then
Unless somebody else sees something that stands out. Because the new ones are really new. Like
I'll give you a choice. We can either break for a quick bit if you want to think about it now, or if you'd rather answer it next time, we'll answer it next time. Entirely up to y'all. I'll leave this up to y'all. Yeah.
I'm fine with answering it next time.
All right. The next time,
unless somebody has like a burning desire.
I don't think anyone does. Then in that case, we will begin the next session by answering the question, setting up what's going to be happening, both with Mother Ruth and Graves in Clear Springs and Marshal Harrington and Arkansas McGee back in El Paso. Let's go to Stars and Wishes.
Holy shit, y'all. Wow, everybody was in rare form today in terms of just narrative. This was bananas. Just utterly wowzer bowsers. I'm so glad to be back. And get to see this. Alex, Jesus Christ, that entire thing with Del Sol was what the fuck? Also, I really love your voice acting. It just delights me every time, every single time. Your NPCs are so fun. I love this outlaw that was in another, that Arkansas masked away. She fascinates me, but I also would have also been like, please don't make me fight her. She's terrifying. This is delicious. I love how much of the mastermind stuff you're putting in here now that we're getting closer and closer to figuring out what the hell's up with these people. And you put it in so subtly. The noose rattlesnake. That was last time, I think, because I watched it right before. So I'm blending all of this all together. That was so last time, stars for everything all the time. Everybody's so fucking talented. That was so cool. And yeah, this time you're doing such a good job getting these mastermind clues in and weaving clues into conversations. I want to really point that out, that you're really, really good at that, Alex. And it feels really natural. To some point, I don't notice the clue happening because I'm so engrossed in the conversation happening. And so 10 out of 10, also stars for the entire thing that Del Sol said about walking out dickless, that just delighted me. No notes, 10 out of 10. Marshall Andrew Harrington, delightful, delightful. I do want to also compliment the scene you had with Del Sol. It really felt very real how grounded your performance was with that chaotic. That was really, really good. That's delicious. Every time you have a scene with Del Sol, it's always different. It's always interesting. Your conversation with the with oh gosh, I think that was last session.
Mhm.
Our lovely Hargrave, Lady Antonia.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't remember
Antonia.
Antonia. I love it. That's very, very good. And I love doing the scene with you. That was so fun. That was so fun. Just so buck wild. I love the Marshal's reactions to everything. I love that he has wrangled on his boyfriend onto the committee. I can't wait to see where that goes, like how that pays off, all of that narrative work. I can't wait to see how that pays off later. I'm really interested, and also really interested in your continued backstory about why you know about Hargrave House and your whole entire thing. What's going on with him? What's going on?
Nepotism.
Nepotism. This is
I-
British nepotism. I don't know.
British
There-
nepotism.
There's seeds from way earlier that I set up
Oh,
about
I know
like
you did. I see them, and I'm like, what is gonna happen? What is
There
going
are there are certainly seeds.
fucking Wes?
Mhm.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God, Wes! I want you to know I have never been put more on the fucking spot, been on more on my toes than when you decided to play chess, literally in the scene. I was like, that was so fucking fun. That was so. I did not expect you to do that. When you said mental chess, I thought you were like making a joke. And no, you really made me fucking play chess. And that was very fun. I really love Mother Ruth Calvo. I love that she got to build a church. I'm really worried about her ghost husband. Every new thing you've added to your backstory, every payoff has been so delicious. And it's just feels really, her storyline feels very natural and very just so intriguing. And I'm really interested to see how it continues to play out. I like that she's like kind of successful actually, despite everything. And every time you do a monologue, it sounds fucking pre-written. It's so good. It's like it sounds like you are like in a show, like giving a character's monologue
I am.
in like like it sounds like you're in Deadwood, and it's just delicious. It's so good. And it is such a joy to hear that, and like how seamlessly you weave in fucking religious texts and also apparently chess. So, wowzers, amazing. Arkansas McGee just hitting this man in the face with a mug was so good. That was so left field. And then telling us later why that timing was peak. That was like such a good way to explain that. I didn't even like, not even introducing what the mask was about and then giving us that. And so it's a shock that Blackheart Vermilion died then. Oh, your masks are so good. It's amazing. I really, really want to see this conclusion to the last ride of Blackheart Vermilion because it has been such a fabulous story. And it really even worked that you failed last time because it made it go longer it felt really natural that it wasn't quite right. And we got more backstory as it took like one more night. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out because I really love Arkansas and his whole entire thing with the Blackheart Vermilion thing. I'm just enraptured. 10 out of 10 to everybody. Delicious. I will be quiet now. So that way other people can talk because I could continue to talk for like 20 more minutes about how fabulous you all are.
I've got some. I really liked Mother Ruth's the description of her church being no frills, the quote that she's going to go with the Lord's natural lumber. I like the scene with Mr. Bird. I don't know. I knew as soon as Alex said he was fox, like I knew, uh-oh, it's Bird. And I like that scene and how Alex, how you introduced him, but the scene with Mother Calvo and him. And I like Mother Calvo, the pious Mother Calvo. I like her like nonstop snide comments. And it came out today with Graves's like gambling and you know, there's other types of games. So stars there for Wes. For Alex, the Foxy Mr. Bird. I liked how he was introduced. And I like how you're a big star for how you're taking all that backstory, history stuff, and you're, instead of just like putting it like in a newspaper article, we've got Marshal Harrington seeing it, right? Through this powerful CGI budget that we have for this. And so stars all around for that. And I really like the quote, "Are you afraid of death, Marshal?" Because it's like, with the inevitable around, it's like it's like, well, wait, who? So that was a good question for Andrew. For B, I liked your subterranean exploration of El Paso, is, you know, and playing a game with O'Toole, which is why you missed the assemblage. And the vulnerable scene with you and Mother Ruth was it was just awesome. Stopping the wagon, looking at the tree, and Death pointing out that, you know, it's all going to end up like this other tree. So big stars for that. I don't think I don't ever think I've seen the Lost and the Inevitable have as many conversations. So I'm really liking those. For Chaotic, big star for bringing the Book of the Dead back to Graves. I mean, that's where it belongs. You know, it doesn't belong in mortal hands. And another big star for asking Del Sol about Arkansas and reaping a whirlwind of the bountiful clues now that we have, going with 11 now. So a big star for that. Wishes, I'm looking forward to seeing the town of Clear Springs, because it's an actual ghost town in an actual spooky Western. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I'll be quick with mine. I'm you mean big star immediately to the first vulnerable move between Graves and Andrew, with the book, you know, with Andrew dropping the book and kind of like looking on in horror, not necessarily understanding the scope of what's happening, but understanding that there is something. That was a really good scene. And I like how it was never overtly said. Just like, why do you have this? I have this because it's my job to have this. And that is all you needed to say. That was a great scene. You two played off each other very well. Same can be said for the desert adventure that Mother Ruth and Graves were having. The Mother Ruth speech about the different trees, that was fantastic, Wes. I know that it was already said, but again, we can always expect a solid monologue from you as a role player, because you're very good at delivering them, and have them be not just a moment of it's not just, the character is espousing a bunch of stuff right now because Wes wants to. It's like, no, and using this as an actual like character driven reference point and using it to match themes of different things happening. You're a very capable storyteller and scene partner. So that was a wonderful scene to watch. Really also enjoyed Arkansas, your conversation with Big John. I like the tactic that you went in swinging. Because I felt that we hadn't had a proper like bout of violence from him that wasn't already prompted. I feel like, you know, most of the time it's like, oh, he gets attacked, so he does things. So I was really excited to have a moment where it's just like, and I swing. You know, I'm calling someone out and I swing. And also, as one of the writer of these scenarios, you know that spouting shit against Diamond Dave and Lola might have some complications. So star to you for having the brazen heart to go do that. I mean, Chaotic again. I mean, I very much enjoy you triggering Del Sol as frequently as you do, because I love role playing Del Sol, and I love how you give into those scenes as more than just clue finding. You have them as conversations, and so it's a wonderful give and take. I have a lot of fun with that. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this session, even though it was a bit on the shorter end just because of interruptions. And I was very excited and looking forward to Clear Springs. I've never run it before, and looking back on the other threats we've done, I wanted to do one that was one entirely outside of El Paso, and two, very ghosty, like very supernatural heavy. Because even though all of these have different things going on, I wanted to have one that was just straight up very, very ghosty, more so than we've been doing lately. So I think that's going to be a really fun one to explore, and I'm also intrigued to see how we resolve things. I guess another wish is it's like a self wish, because like for the last like 5 sessions, I've thought about writing something for this game to introduce in our game, and I don't know. We'll see if I do. It wouldn't be an entire threat. Basically, for those,
Do it.
it would be a side threat for those familiar with how side threats work in the between. So, it would be mini. And I thought about it, so I might actually introduce that in the near future. But we're taking up mastermind clues, so I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah. Again, I have to like echo a lot of people's stars, raves for just being his weird usual self and just like creeping it out. I'm just like, God, I like, I'm just gonna like every time we're gonna have a vulnerable move in the future, like I'm just gonna be picking up conditions left and right. Like, come on, it's just so goddamn creepy. You can make a custom move out of that one. Mother Ruth, I really love the scene with Bird because, again, I know I've played Ghost of El Paso before, and Bird in my previous campaign was a total menace, and I hate him so goddamn much. And he's just as awful as he was then, as he is now. I want him out of the picture because he's just going to make our lives hell. I just know it in my bones.
That's the thing about these men, Marshall. You just gotta neuter them as soon as they come out, or they're just gonna cause problems. So if you just get right to the point, then saves you all the trouble.
Some men just walk in so cocksure, but come out dickless.
Arkansas, brave moves for finding clues cowboy style, which is just the funniest turn of phrase, but it makes total sense as to why Arkansas again is literally like, it makes sense why his vice is target practice at the sky. He makes such poor decisions of just like, I'm gonna talk about ghosts really publicly here, and a place where they don't want to talk to me about ghosts. I'm gonna bully like the guy who could probably like take me out very easily if I insult him. But however, secretly he is a menace and a coward, and I don't like it very much. And I'm just like, Alex, God, your NPC work is just amazing, and I'm like, my God, there was just a lot of characters at this session, like of just like us meeting like several servants of the mastermind, just also just like taking me on that weird spiritual journey. I'm just like, Andrew Harrington is stressed, and just like I was just like, I don't know who isn't a ghost in El Paso anymore. Am I a ghost? Maybe. But yeah. Wish. This is a self-wish, but I wish I could figure out how to hint more stuff about my past, because like I'm at a point in my masks that it's more about the immediate past rather than the long-term past. So like I have to figure out like how to incorporate this stuff from my long-term past into more vulnerable scenes. So perhaps I should just write my custom at this point.
Okay, gang. Let's talk about this session. Marshal Harrington, chaotic. I love the scenes that you have with Del Sol. And to echo what Alex said, they don't just feel like mechanics. They don't feel like moves. They feel like important scenes where we really get to truly see how Marshall Harrington really is. Not this facade that is like, I'm trying to be what the former Marshall was and more, which we all know is just a mask in of itself, but like the true and honest like Marshall Harrington of like who is like somebody that has like I love that you're Marshall. There are echoes. I love Deadwood so fucking much. It is such a good television show. There are people that do not like the second season. I understand it. I think is one of the best. But like you bring such notes of Bullock to the Marshal, who is like the inspiration for that playbook. I believe so. But you do it in a way that's not you putting on a fucking mustache and doing like a drawl. You were like Timothy Oliphant. You were doing it in a way where you bring that like Bullock in the series has this, and I don't know if you've seen Deadwood or anything like that, but if you did, it would make sense. But like Bullock has this sense of like humanity and this sense of like wanting to he doesn't want to be a lawman. He doesn't want to do all these things. He gets thrust into that role. He gets pushed into it because he knows how to use a gun, and he stands for what he thinks is right and true and everything. But he has a fucked up past, and he's hiding things, and he's like, but he's such a like multifaceted like characteristic character, like different like characteristic, a variety to characteristic character. And you're providing that with Harrington. And there's little things that you haven't shared with us, but you give us little hints to, and it's really good. And I really like this. Is one of my favorite characters that I've played alongside with you in a game before. And like I like your characters a lot, Chaotic, but Harrington is like special. And there's a connection to the other Brindlewood games in a way that's not overt. And it's like, that's Harry Styles as a character that nobody fucking knows except for comic nerds, next to Patton Oswalt in a CGI satyr. Like you're not like, it's not like one of those things. It feels very, it makes the universe feel alive. It makes this thing that we did with White Mountain Rescue and what Alex did with Prism, it makes it feel like a legitimate thing instead of just like a cheap trick for Marvel to use to make more like content. It feels earnest, and so good for that. Also, Alex, I want to say star to you for making the world feel earnest and not like a cheap trick just to pump out more content like Marvel does with multiverses. Because you maintain the focus, like this is the game we're playing, Ghost of El Paso. This is the themes and everything. This is the game that we're playing, but you do have those connections to the between. You do like, because it is a between game. Like, and I know, Daniel, it didn't start out as a between game, I don't believe. I think it got adapted into that.
No, it was always a between.
It was always a between game. Okay, perfect. Well, then, perfect notes. You're reading the book. You're doing it. It feels like the between. It feels like it's in that world and in that universe, and you're tying, and it's all tied together, and you understand that. But you're allowing it to be its own thing, and you're allowing these scenes to have space. Like you're allowing these moments with Del Sol and Harrington to go on. You're allowing these moments of Arkansas to sit and talk with these people and doing the Arkansas detective way, which is going to a bar, getting drunk and talking to people and annoying them until they tell him what he wants to know, or he just gets he gets thrust into these situations. It's fantastic. That's a star for you, Daniel, also, of having like your very own way of being a detective. You're making the Calamity feel like a detective, private investigator character, but it's like, it's more Elliot Gould, Long Goodbye, than it is like with Sam Spade than it is with fucking, like Monsieur Spade or Humphrey Bogart. You're just, it's this guy that's just stumbling into these things and just being like, I'm just looking for cat food, or I'm just looking for a drink to cure my hangover, and then you're here, but I'm also looking for, like, there's so many varieties and depths to all these characters are well thought out. Graves, I like this trajectory that Graves is on, and I hope that we get a happy somewhat ending for Graves. I don't think, from what I have written for Ruth, I don't think Ruth deserves a happy ending. I'm pretty sure Harrington doesn't deserve a happy ending. Yeah, and I think we are getting the only possible happy ending for Arkansas McGee right now. Like we are like there's only one possible happy ending for Arkansas, and it's getting that goddamn coward Jim McKinley, and then he can rest. And then like that's the thing, is like Ruth, like the thing of the tree that this is Ruth. This is Arkansas's purpose, is to find Jim McKinley and avenge Blackheart Vermillion. And like, I think but like with Graves, I want there to be a happy ending. I want Death to like, I don't know, get to experience life. There's things that I have like planned for next session because like I really wanted this to be like a Mother Ruth Graves thing, and other people can come along and show up and stuff like that. But I really wanted this to be like we're going outside the town. There's a very religious overtones. There's dead people in the water. There's ghosts. All this. Like it feels very much like I want this like, and you're leading to it and you're playing along with it well. B, you play so well with these other characters. The conversation you had with Harrington, it was short, but it was purposeful with like the Book of the Dead and everything. It was purposeful and it moved your character subplots along so well that it's working in tandem with the main plot so well. And it's really good. As somebody that took screenwriting classes, I've never wrote a screenplay that's ever been published or produced or anything like that. Like it makes sense. Your B plot and C plot, like all these character plots are moving forward the main plot in interesting ways. And I'm very excited. I'm very stoked. I love this game. This game is so good. I love Wild West stuff. Also Alex, star for the character voices, because I in my mind imagine, like I mentioned it in the chat, but with Bird, I was like, I'm getting Hearst. I hear Hearst. I hear Hearst from Deadwood, that son of a bitch, U.S. Senator, piece of shit, George Hearst. But yeah, but but like,
And he was like, this motherfucker is talking to. No, Daniel had to go pick up his kid, so he had to step out earlier than usual.
Absolutely.
Audience,
Absolutely.
don't assume. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
We're running a little bit over time.
I deserve it though. But like, I heard Gerald McRaney, the actor that plays Hearst, I heard that in that voice. I know for a fact that like Felina is not this, but I heard a little bit of Trixie in Felina a little bit too. There was a little bit of a Trixie affectation.
That was unconsciously, I did Trixie in there.
It was,
bit, yeah.
it was unconsciously, but they have like, if you've read like with Felina, so Felina very much carries herself like Trixie from Deadwood, very fiery and passionate, does not take shit. And like you just needed a cunt or a cocksucker in there, and it would have been perfect. It would have been spot on. But like that, you're not copying things. You understand that like that is a media touchstone that was a very popular HBO show, and you're taking that and like you're doing it in ways where it's original. It's characters that aren't like the exact same, but you're using media touchstone and inspirations in a way that's very familiar, where people like me that are familiar with the touchstones and the inspiration are going, I'm locked in. I know exactly who that is. I'm keyed in. So that's really good. My wish. God damn it if Mother Ruth Calvo dies next session, because I was looking, I have masks and stuff like that, but I was like, what a fucking threat to go out on. Because I think it's a perfect one to go out for Mother Ruth. Because I've been thinking about it. I'm like, what does her trajectory look like? What does her arc look like? And I'm like, damn, well, that'd be a good one. But I kind of always hope she survives. But, there's always a chance. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, just a great game. Always good. And we, fuck yeah.
We'll make it really dramatic if she dies. Death is with you. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make it real cool.
We'll make it real cool, they said.
It'll be real cool.
I honestly don't think Arkansas is going to last much longer than the resolution of his own threats. Oh God.
He's stacking masks.
Yeah, like currently he has 3 masks left.
Daniel speedruns characters like he stole them, and I really love that. Star to Daniel that when he's not here, but fucking just.
I'm trying to race him right now. I'm trying to race him because I know that that's the trajectory
can
that
tell.
he's sending the Calamity on, and I'm like, but that's the thing is, I'm not going to try to cheat him out of it. It's not like a
No.
Here's the thing.
It's not like a competition, like, because it makes sense for
It does.
Arkansas to not.
Here's the thing, by the way, this is like not necessarily a wish, it's more of just like a curiosity. Is I'm very intrigued to know, because it's very likely we'll have at least 1 or 2 playbook retirements, maybe before the mastermind is resolved. Especially, I think Arkansas is going that way. I'm very interested to see what playbooks someone would pick up as with a new hunter. So I'm certainly intrigued.
I can tell y'all too right now, and you feel free to cut this out or whatever. I've got a concept for the bootstrapper
Oh,
and right now.
I would fucking pay good money to see you play either. Yeah, especially the
Yes.
bootstrapper.
Oh my
Mhm.
god. Oh,
Interesting
man.
thing about and if anyone picks up the kid or the charlatan, it doesn't fuck with things I have in mind. I just have things in mind that is a bit of, I'll call it sleight of hand. I caught something on the break because I heard Daniel mention, be like, oh yeah, Mr. Perdition. I kind of like have him be like the devil. And I'm like, not mutually exclusive. So anyway, I have thoughts. I have thoughts about my cohesive Brindleverse bullshit.
Oh my god.
I have notes. I have so many notes. And last night, I had a massive text thread with Steph Infection from the Discord of me just telling her things that you guys might not find out in this campaign. You might find out a little. I don't know. So just excited in general to see how this pans out.
Hold on, I need to look up something real quick because it's gonna be a little bit on the funnier side.
Okay, then that'll be a good thing to end our session on.
Originally I was starting to like fuss out of like my custom move, and we did like the sort of like the devil the jail cell scene with graves and whatnot. I hadn't heard about that before.
That was cool, by the way.
That was cool. April 24th, so a few weeks ago. I wrote part of a custom move, and one of the lines in it is, "You thought that only ghosts haunt the desert, but the devil himself has been whispering in your ear." So I think Alex has been psychically sending me thoughts about Del Sol. So,
oh my god, I'm obsessed.
I've had notes before this campaign started. Yeah, and they're notes that won't pay off until we do like other campaigns in the Brindleverse anthology. So, yeah. Anyway,
Oh my god.
Any other stars or wishes people want to throw out there before we go?
I need to rewrite my move to make it more fun,
more juicy. All right. Well, in that
more
case,
juicy.
wave
Drink
goodbye.
more Ovaltine, folks.
Drink more Ovaltine. You heard from Mother Ruth. Goodbye.